Episode 9 starts off where the last one ended, with the king asking if his head is enough for forgiveness. Albedo laughs and says it seems like she's misread him. Is it because that man is no longer by her side? Or perhaps because he realized the excellent talents of his child? He never would have made a choice like that in the past. But it's fine. Either way, their response to this matter will not change. The Sorcerer Kingdom declares war on Re-Estize Kingdom. They will deploy their soldiers exactly 1 month from today at noon. The only exception is if their kingdom invades E-Naeul, which is part of their kingdom, before that date. Lastly, she says she has a message from His Majesty. A minister interrupts her, saying this is all part of their schemes. Albedo says how dare you interrupt me when she repeats the words of the Sorcerer King, and asks if he wishes to die before the month is out. The message from His Majesty is, I do not intend to cast any large spells this time. Let's enjoy ourselves. As she's leaving, she stops and says, you claim this was all part of our schemes. But this matter comes as a surprise to us as well. We're the ones who want to know what in the world their kingdom was thinking. Next, we see Brain and some lady having a conversation while observing children practicing their swordsmanship. The lady says that the Sorcerer Kingdom gave us 1 month to prepare for the war, but even though they've declared war, they haven't shown any signs of mobilizing their troops. Were they just trying to threaten us? Brain tells her that that's not something the Sorcerer King would do. She remembers that he saw the Sorcerer King with his eyes, right? Brain says, I didn't just see him, I witnessed Gazef's one-on-one with him. But he has no idea what happened or how Gazef lost. We see that Brain is carrying Gazef's sword on his hip. He says that he's just taking care of it for the time being. The princess pushed it on him. Gazef's beloved blade and one of the treasures of the kingdom, Razor's Edge. Lady asks if even that sword couldn't leave a scratch on the Sorcerer King. Brain said that he's heard it's possible, but the blade didn't reach him, and says that the Sorcerer King is planning something. It's just a gut feeling, but he believes it's true. That's why he's going to get these kids out of here. She asks if he's got a way out. He says yeah, he'll have them catch a ride on a caravan heading towards a city near the council state. Even if he dies, the swordsmanship he's teaching, worthless or not, will live on in the kids. She says that Master Vester also said something similar, and asks if he would allow them to send one of theirs with his children. Brain asks if they're sure, and Vester nods. Back in Nazarick, Ains says, so it's been a month since we declared war on the kingdom. They seem to think we've withdrawn into E-Naeul. He congratulates Demiurge for monitoring the roads and keeping their movements covert. He also congratulates Albedo for doing an excellent job getting some of the kingdom's nobles to defect to their side. Their main objective of this plan is to prevent other countries from sending support troops or otherwise intervening by shutting down the kingdom's borders before they even notice. That's why it was necessary to annihilate the cities and villages near those areas. But everyone has racked their brains and contributed to the success of this plan. However, it worries him that there are no problems at all. He asks Cocytus how he felt after his defeat against the Lizardmen. Cocytus says that he felt like he learned a lot from that defeat. Ains says right. He believes that we can learn a lot from suffering setbacks. With their strength, it may not be difficult to annihilate a few cities and massacre their people, but experience from mistakes can help them develop a foundation that supports them when they face more difficult situations. Now that the Sorcerer Kingdom controls so much land, he'll be assigning a greater variety of tasks to all the floor guardians. Demiurge comments on how he's even preparing a path for them who lack experience to create history. Ains says that's exactly right. So let us prepare for the time they fight against a guild that is stronger than themselves. Albedo informs them that she believes it's almost time for the next battle. Shautir asks who is responsible for the next region. Albedo tells her that Ains is. Shautir then says that I'll have to watch closely. The other guardians agree. Ains tells them that he didn't prepare anything extravagant. They're all looking over the battle plan. Cocytus believes that this lacks some military force. Alda agrees. Some humans escaped from the nearby towns that they've destroyed as well. Lord Ains was responsible for those towns too, and asks if there's a reason for that. Ains says that their questions are reasonable, and all of them should watch this next battle. He'll explain things to them afterwards. The next attack is on a seaside town, E-Naeul. It's a fishing town that doesn't have very many soldiers, or much of a protective barrier. While the Guardians are talking over that plan, Ains is picking at the feather on his pen. Well, I've bought myself some time for now. We get a flashback of Ains meeting with Sebes on the 5th floor. He apologizes for how insolent his actions are, but Lady Negredo and Pestonia desperately wish to meet with him. Ains tells him that he's the one who banned Negredo from leaving Nazarick, so he must be the one to visit. As they continue walking, Ains wonders if he should have brought Negredo's little sister Albedo with him. He doesn't think their relationship is bad, but Ains says no, it's good I didn't. Albedo was really angry about her suspension. They sit down and Ains asks, what did you want to talk about? She asks if it's possible to stop this senseless massacre of the people within the kingdom. He says impossible. To begin with, this isn't something to bring to me directly. She should have discussed this with her direct superior Cocytus first. Her actions show blatant disrespect to her superior. Pestonia agrees, that's why she would also like to suggest this as well. Her direct superior is Sebes. Ains says, alright, let me ask you this. We initiated this plan to further strengthen the great tomb of Nazarick. Do you think mere mercy would be enough to change our plans? Negredo gets up and says all humans have potential. They are innovators that continue to birth new things. She believes they hold the power to advance civilization in new ways, like the biscuits before them. They are made in Iranto. The biscuits used to be hard, but thanks to the declining cost of fresh ingredients and the development of human food culture, they've become softer. Ains tries one and agrees. However, he feels that the progress of civilization is dangerous. The powerful stagnate while the weak get stronger. They have to avoid any possibility of humans overthrowing them. Sebes thanks Ains for his time, and as he begins to leave, Pestonia stops him and says that this is the carrot and the stick plan. She heard that this plan shows how differently they treat the kingdom, who chose to be our enemy, compared to the empire, who became a vassal state. Wouldn't people who managed to survive by the skin of their teeth better spread the horrors they've experienced? Meaning that she wants some of them to survive as witnesses. Albedo and the others would definitely reject something like that. But you know, a lot of different races with diverse ways of thinking will be joining the Sorcerer Kingdom. Her ways of thinking are the minority in Nazarick, but that's all the more reason to value such opinion. Ains says fine. He'll consider letting a small number of humans go. We see Count Naoda and an adventurer looking at the horde of zombies from a tower. She says that they may be villagers that were raised from the dead after the Sorcerer Kingdom's assault. The Count asks if he can really do that. She tells him that there are spells that create undead, and the situation matches what the survivors have described. She then points to 2 Death Knights within the horde. She tells him that they're special undead sent by the Sorcerer Kingdom, who massacred 200,000 soldiers on the Cat's Plains. Do you think they'd be weak? The Count says they look super strong. The lady asks if he's not upset about the fact that they think only 2 of their undead soldiers could decimate his entire city. He says nope. Actually, he feels super lucky that the mithril adventurers of the Four Armaments are here to help. She tells him that the adventurers normally don't support any side of war between countries, but they're fighting against the undead. The Count says that he'd love to surrender, but that's probably impossible. She asks why not try to escape by sea with just his family. He tells her, well, you've seen how many survivors there's been so far. He's thinking that the Sorcerer Kingdom is planning to eradicate all the people in the kingdom. If that's the case, does she think they'd really let him escape? The Count thanks everyone for cooperating to stand against this unprecedented danger. The lady introduces her team as the Four Armaments mithril team. They'll be leading all of them today. The Count tells him that he's prepared plenty of rewards for all the adventurers here today, and special rewards for his soldiers as well. The priestess says that she'd rather have a different kind of reward. Doesn't he have some magic items he considers to be a family heirloom? He tells her, yeah, the 5-colored holy sword has always been in his family. It's a long sword that has the power of 5 different elements. She says she wants that. He tells her that depends on the situation. He'll give it to her if she'll marry his son as a concubine. She asks which son. He says his 3rd. She begins to freak out, but composes herself and says that he's still 12, right? He wants her to be his concubine? He says yeah, but why would you know the age of a 3rd son of a noble from the countryside? Is it because they're first-rate adventurers? The 2 guys in their party say no, that's not it. The priestess says, I guess it can't be helped. She'll become his concubine for the 5-colored holy sword. The count says that he was the one who suggested it, but why is this girl drooling like that? Was she aiming for his son from the start, or is it the magic item? White-haired lady says the former. The priestess says who wouldn't drool over fruit that hasn't ripened yet. The people look at her in disgust. Then the count says that he thought she'd be upset if he asked her to be his concubine. White-hair says that she's glad he eased the tension with his humor, but they need to prepare for the battle. White-hair asks her team if they know how strong the Death Knights are. They don't have a clue, so she says then they'll have to figure out what kind of attacks are effective against them first. They shoot some arrows at the horde. The shield Death Knight begins to rush forward. The magic casters begin to fire their spells, but the Death Knight continues on. A guy tells them that they're undead. Their movements don't slow down when they take damage, but the magic attacks are working. Whitehair asks if they're the Sorcerer Kingdom's trump card. That's why there's only 2 of them. Or a priestess asks if they should run, but she says that will be impossible with that thing around. The shield knight begins attacking the gate. Whitehair tells everyone to watch out for the dual wielder. They'll distract the one with the shield, while the magic casters hit the undead with all they've got once they reach the city walls. They buff up Whitehair and the Death Knight breaks down the gate. Whitehair activates Doppel, and the Death Knight charges towards her. Whitehair activates Heavy Fortress and stops the Death Knight, but it throws her to the side. As she recovers, her party members attack, but the Death Knight is holding his own. It goes to attack Whitehair, but is unable to move because of some goo. She calls for the magic casters to attack it, but the guy says it's no good. The other one is coming. The Death Knight breaks free. Whitehair tells him to use Fly to get away. They'll try to buy some time. We then hear a gunshot and see the shield Death Knight get sniped. The dual wielder looks up and we see some Gundam in the sky. He begins to spray down the other Death Knight, who is unable to block all the bullets, so that it dies. We see that he's an adamantite adventurer, a member of Drop of Red. Then he flies off. Back with Ains, Shalltear says that the Death Knight and the Death Warrior were destroyed so easily, but Ains says just as expected. Then the episode ends. Some personal thoughts. My first thought is that the Gundam is a player, but I don't really think that's the case. I feel like it's something like player adjacent, though I don't know what it'd be. I'm guessing next episode we'll find out more about Drop of Red, but I don't think we'll get to see Ains' fight with him until like the end of the season. At least I hope it'll be in this season. I'm looking forward to seeing if this was actually according to Ains' plans, or if it was happenstance and he just has to act like it's just as expected. Well, it's a good episode. I don't really have too much to say about it, but that's about it. So yeah.